an iconic 70s rocker, the voice behind a legendary #1 hit, has just turned 70. But the story behind his rise to fame and the song that changed everything is far more incredible than most people know. The story of one of the most iconic rock musicians of the 1970s is more than just a tale about fame, guitars, and chart-topping songs. It is a story about rebellion, artistic freedom, and a generation that found its voice through music. As this legendary rocker reaches the age of 70, fans around the world are reflecting on a career that helped shape the sound and attitude of an entire era. His journey from a young dreamer with a guitar to a global music icon mirrors the transformation of rock music itself during one of its most powerful decades. The 1970s were a defining period in the history of rock music. The decade followed the explosive cultural changes of the late 1960s, and music became the emotional language of a generation that wanted freedom, authenticity, and bold expression. In the middle of that musical revolution emerged a young artist, whose raw voice, unforgettable stage presence, and fearless songwriting quickly captured the attention of audiences. At a time when rock bands were experimenting with new sounds and styles, he stood out by blending powerful vocals with deeply personal lyrics that spoke to both rebellion and vulnerability. His early life did not necessarily predict the rock and roll path he would eventually take. Growing up in a modest environment, he was surrounded by music from a young age. The radio was often playing in the background, exposing him to a wide range of influences, including blues, soul, and early rock pioneers. Those sounds planted a seed that would grow into an unstoppable passion. As a teenager, he became fascinated with the guitar and spent countless hours learning chords, writing melodies, and experimenting with different musical ideas. Friends and family members often recall how determined he was even in those early days, practicing late into the night while dreaming of something bigger. The transition from a young musician to a professional performer was not immediate. Like many artists, he faced rejection, uncertainty, and financial struggles. Early gigs were often performed in small clubs, smoky bars, and tiny venues where audiences were sometimes more interested in conversation than music. Yet these early performances helped shape his style. Playing live forced him to develop the confidence and charisma that would later become one of his trademarks. Every show was a learning experience, and every challenge strengthened his resolve to keep pursuing music. Eventually, his dedication began to pay off. The formation of a band brought new creative energy and allowed his songwriting to evolve. Together with fellow musicians who shared a similar vision, he began producing songs that blended emotional storytelling with the electrifying energy of rock. The chemistry between the band members was undeniable. Their rehearsals often stretched for hours as they refined melodies and experimented with arrangements, chasing a sound that felt authentic and powerful. The turning point came when one of their songs captured the attention of record executives. The track was bold, catchy, and emotionally charged. It carried the spirit of the era while also offering something fresh and unique. When the song was finally released, it quickly climbed the charts and reached the #1 position, transforming the band overnight into global stars. The success of that hit song not only launched their career, but also secured their place. In the history of rock music, the impact of the song was enormous. Radio stations played it constantly, fans sang along at concerts, and critics praised its unforgettable hook and powerful message. The track became more than just a hit single. It became an anthem. For many listeners, the song represented the excitement and freedom of youth, during a time when music was closely tied to cultural change. Even decades later, the opening notes of the song instantly transport listeners back to that golden era of rock. As their popularity grew, the band began touring extensively. Concert halls filled with thousands of fans, eager to witness the electrifying performances that had already become legendary. On stage, the rocker demonstrated an energy that seemed almost limitless. His voice carried effortlessly across arenas, while his commanding stage presence made every show feel unforgettable. Fans often describe the experience as more than a concert. It was a moment of connection between artist and audience. The lifestyle of a rock star during the 1970s was intense and often unpredictable. Long tours, late nights, and constant travel created a whirlwind environment. Yet amid the chaos, he remained deeply committed to his craft. Writing new music was always a priority. Between concerts and interviews, he would return to the studio to experiment with fresh sounds and ideas. This dedication ensured that the band's music continued evolving rather than repeating the same formula. Over time, the rocker's influence began to spread beyond just his own songs. Younger musicians looked up to him as an inspiration. His fearless attitude toward music encouraged others to push boundaries and explore new directions within rock. Critics frequently praised his authenticity, noting that his performances always felt genuine rather than manufactured. That authenticity became a defining characteristic of his career. Despite the success and fame, the path was not always easy. The pressures of the music industry can be overwhelming, and many artists struggle to balance creativity with the demands of commercial success. Yet he managed to navigate those challenges with remarkable resilience. While trends in music changed over the years, his commitment to honesty and emotional storytelling kept his work relevant to new generations of listeners. By the time the band had firmly established itself as a global phenomenon, their music had already become part of the cultural fabric of the 1970s. Songs from that era continue to appear in films, television shows, and playlists around the world. For fans who experienced the decade firsthand, those tracks evoke powerful memories of youth and discovery. For younger listeners, the music offers a glimpse into a time when rock ruled the airwaves and artists shaped culture through sound. As the legendary rocker approaches his 70th birthday, the journey that began with a young dreamer holding a guitar now stands as one of the most remarkable stories in rock history. His voice, his songwriting, and the unforgettable #1 hit that launched his career remain symbols of an era when music had the power to bring people together and capture the spirit of a generation. Reaching the age of 70 is a milestone that naturally encourages reflection. For this legendary rocker, it represents not only personal longevity, but also a lifetime dedicated to music. Looking back across decades of creativity, touring, and cultural influence, it becomes clear that his legacy extends far beyond a single hit song. The journey that began in the rebellious atmosphere of the 1970s has continued through changing musical trends, shifting audiences, and an evolving industry. One of the most remarkable aspects of his career is the ability to remain relevant across generations. Many artists who rise to fame during a specific era struggle to maintain their connection with audiences as times change. Yet his music has managed to cross those generational boundaries. Fans who first discovered his songs on vinyl records now share them with their children and grandchildren through digital playlists and streaming platforms. The emotion embedded in the lyrics and melodies continues to resonate regardless of age or background. The legendary #1 hit that first brought him worldwide recognition still holds a special place in music history. The song has been played millions of times, covered by countless artists, and celebrated in documentaries about the golden age of rock. Even today, hearing that iconic melody instantly brings back memories for listeners who remember the excitement of its original release. For younger audiences who discover it decades later, the track still feels fresh and powerful, proof that truly great music can transcend time. Beyond that famous song, the rocker's catalog includes numerous albums and performances that highlight his versatility as an artist. Throughout his career, he experimented with different sounds, sometimes leaning into classic rock energy, and at other times exploring softer, more reflective musical styles. This willingness to evolve allowed him to avoid becoming trapped by a single musical identity. Instead, each era of his career revealed a new layer of creativity. Live performances have always been a cornerstone of his reputation. Even after decades in the industry, audiences continue to be amazed by his ability to command a stage. The energy that once filled stadiums during the peak of the 1970s rock era still appears whenever he steps in front of a crowd. Fans often describe his concerts as a reminder of the raw power of live music, where emotion, sound, and shared experience create unforgettable moments. Many musicians who reach such milestones also become mentors for younger artists, and this rocker is no exception. Over the years, he has offered guidance to emerging performers who admire his career. His advice often focuses on authenticity, encouraging musicians to trust their instincts rather than chase temporary trends. According to him, the most powerful songs are those that come from honest emotions and personal experiences. Another important part of his legacy is the cultural influence he carried during the height of rock's popularity. The 1970s were a time when music often reflected social change, political awareness, and personal freedom. His songs captured that atmosphere perfectly. They spoke to listeners who were searching for identity and expression during a rapidly changing world. In many ways, the music became a soundtrack to an era of transformation. As the years passed, he also experienced the quieter side of life beyond the spotlight. While the excitement of touring and recording remained important, moments away from the stage allowed him to appreciate the deeper meaning of his career. Interviews over the years reveal a thoughtful perspective about success and creativity. He often speaks about gratitude for the opportunities that music provided and the connection he continues to share with fans around the world. Celebrating 70 years of life also highlights the endurance required to remain active in the music industry for so long. The world of entertainment changes rapidly, with new styles, technologies, and platforms emerging constantly. Artists who adapt while staying true to their identity often become legends, and his career stands as a clear example of that balance. He embraced change without abandoning the authenticity that first attracted audiences. Fans across the globe have responded to his milestone birthday with admiration and nostalgia. Social media platforms filled with messages celebrating his contributions to music. Longtime listeners share memories of the first time they heard his famous hit song or attended one of his concerts. Younger fans discover his music through streaming services and quickly realize why he became such an influential figure. Music historians frequently emphasize the importance of artists like him when discussing the evolution of rock. The genre has passed through many phases, from the rebellious energy of early rock and roll to the polished sounds of modern productions. Yet the spirit of authenticity that defined the 1970s remains a powerful reference point. His work represents that spirit perfectly, reminding listeners of a time when passion and creativity were the driving forces behind every performance. Turning 70 does not mean the end of the musical journey. In fact, many artists continue, creating long after reaching such milestones. Whether through occasional performances, interviews, or new projects, the connection between the rocker and his audience remains strong. Fans appreciate not only the music itself but also the story behind it, a story that reflects perseverance, artistic courage, and the enduring magic of rock and roll. Ultimately, the celebration of his 70th birthday is also a celebration of the era he helped define. The 1970s produced some of the most memorable music in modern history, and his voice was among the ones that shaped that legacy. The iconic #1 hit that launched his career continues to echo through time, reminding listeners of a moment when a single song could capture the imagination of millions. As long as people continue listening to rock music, the story of this legendary performer will remain an essential chapter in its history. His journey from a determined young musician to a celebrated icon proves that great music is not limited by age or era. It lives on through every note, every lyric, and every listener who presses play and discovers the timeless power of rock.